If I get everybody's attention, we're going to go ahead and get started at 7 o'clock. We've got 4 members of the committee here, so we've got enough for a quorum. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. First of all, I want to clarify something. I made the statement at the last commission meeting that it was a little suspect to me that the company that said that these trucks failed this test and needed these repairs was the same company that was going to be doing the work. That somehow got misinterpreted. That I thought the members of the fire department were getting some kind of personal gain out of this funding request or that company doing work. That's not what I said or what I meant. What I meant was, it looks like this company's gouging us for these repairs and this service on these vehicles. That's what I meant. So, with that being said, we're here tonight to discuss this funding request from Copper Basin Fire and Rescue for the vehicle maintenance and repairs on this request that was given to us at the last commission meeting. The total of that request is $26,435. My understanding is that we've already come up with a plan and implemented some of the maintenance. We've already started working on some of the maintenance. County Executive Hatcher, can you give us an update on where we're at with that right now?
Yes, sir. And being with you tonight, we weren't able to start as quick as I'd like to have. And what I mean by that, so after hearing with what it was said about county vehicles and county equipment, so Ben and I, along with the help of Keith Jeske and Tim Morris, we went to the West Polk Fire and Rescue. They set us up with their dealers who they use, Fleet Pride, and who was the other one? Lee Smith. And so we were able to get 3 55-gallon drums of oil at approximately $2,800. And then we were able to get enough filters. Ben went around and checked all the filters to be sure that we could get the exact filters for those vehicles. And so that was about $3,800 in cost. And I believe as of tonight, Ben can say that there's 5 engines that have been fully serviced. I was actually on the phone at the same time as Ben had messaged me about the newer truck that was purchased from Cleveland. Ben had noticed that the back brakes were not engaging, and I was on the phone with Chad Boring to see about an estimated cost. Chad said that before he would like to give an estimated cost, that he would like for him and his dad to be able to come and look at those. I think everybody here, especially on the east side of the county, knows that Boring's record service, and as Keith has said to me, they've always been good about helping and doing for what they can to the fire department. And so Chad and Rick, to my knowledge, are going to come and look at those trucks. I asked if that would be done at site or if it needed to go back, and they said that those trucks would need to go to their garage where they had plenty of air pressure and be able to check these trucks over for the braking system. But as of right now, as Ben says, 5 vehicles have been fully serviced, greased, gone over, oil change, filters changed. Ben keeps working on that. In case you're wondering why it took a little longer, we didn't get the oil in until Friday.
Yeah, Friday afternoon, like 4:30.
So once we got that in, and Ben started on that Monday morning, and he's been up here ever since.
Yep. Okay, so it looks like they were on this request. That company was charging us $1,500 a truck for maintenance.
Yes.
My estimation is that it's about $400 to $500 per truck if I do it.
Okay.
From all the filters and that amount of oil divided up amongst all the vehicles.
Okay.
So that's how much it saves per truck?
Well, if it was 500 a truck, it'd be $1,000 a truck savings. And it looks like there's 9 trucks on here, so that'd be a $9,000 savings. If we can do it for 500, then yes, sir.
Quick question. So I have a little bit of a mechanical background, specifically in aviation though. Specifically in aviation though. Being in the military, checklist and verifying work that's being done is crucial. Do you guys have a list of work that you're going to be doing? I know you're quoting $500 and they're quoting the 13, I think it was. Do you have a documented list of what checks and what's going to be gone over as far as with the truck?
I think we're going on what's on this list right here.
All right. So I've dealt with Brindley Mountain. I've been kind of in the forefront interacting with them. I have a 7-page document here that goes over the details of what they go over that I would love to give to you guys.
Okay.
That way you guys, whoever you're going to work with, I've talked with Ben about it a little bit. Unfortunately, I don't have a printer, so I didn't print it out and give it to him.
Okay.
But I'm more than willing to hand this over to you guys.
We're more than willing to look at it. So,
With that being said, we went ahead and printed off the pump tests. Since these are your vehicles, I feel that it is important that you guys see the pump test that NFPA requires for these trucks to go. So, who would like it? So it's a copy. Each one's for the first 4 engines. We didn't do engine 5 just because it's been decommissioned.
Okay.
And then this is the checklist that Brindley Mountain goes through, and that's why the cost is high. It includes topping off fluids, so on and so forth. I didn't get into the details going over it because we didn't schedule it. I would have went more thorough into it, seeing the details, but they'll go through and document.
Are these copies or are these for each truck?
Each one is for each truck, so each one has E1 through E4, and then the vehicle numbers for your guys' identification route, because you guys do everything off vehicle numbers.
Right.
So put the vehicle numbers on there for your reference, but the 7 to 9 page document there goes through. And they told me that they're as thorough as they'll walk around, and on a body panel, if there's a scratch or a dent, they'll mark that.
Well, our stuff's old. I know it's scratched.
That's
That's not a surprise to me that it's scratched then.
Every vehicle I own is the same way. I mean, I got 8 kids and they beat everything up. So if it's beat up and I can fix it, I fix it. So, but yeah, I want to give that to you guys that way because there's no baseline. I've kind of been, they've grown the department for the last 3 years, and then I've come in and.
Well, that brings up a question that I have. What have we done for the last 3 years for maintenance?
So I'll be happy to speak to that. We've been finding, we do as much maintenance as we can in-house. Everything that we could do that's not vehicle roadworthy. We have used R.L. Smith in Chattanooga for the big stuff. I know Robbie helped us one time. We had a diesel motor issue. He found us a mechanic over in West Polk. We also used Brackets, fire engine repair company. We've used those for the last 3 years. And then Brackets has gotten now where they're 6 to 8 months out, and we called around to the other departments and they were using Brindley Mountain, and that's where they came from. And so we've been trying to find every way we can. Our internal policy is this: if it's something we can fix that's not DOT inspected, and we can find somebody in the department that's willing to do it, has the capability, we do it. And that's where I've got several of the mechanics sitting in here, 4 of them right now. They have put so many hundreds of hours turning wrenches on these trucks, doing it ourselves to save money. And we've got, Jerry, who's got a background in the military. We've got several. We've got Gene. We've got Chris. We've got a lot of people that step up and work on these trucks. And so the idea is when we can save money, we save money. Now, what I challenged them to do is we got to compare apples to apples. So one of the things Brindley Mountain was going to give us was going to be a full preventive maintenance and give us an inspection and put it in writing. Now, this is an important part of it. We are supposed to have, for every fire engine, we're supposed to have a file on every fire engine of its maintenance and upkeep. If we ever have a serious accident with one of these engines, the first thing they're going to pull when they come in is the maintenance records of the truck. These trucks don't come with maintenance records. So one of the things Brindley Mountain was going to do in this number is to give us a baseline so that we have a file. So what we would ask Ben to do is we need to make sure every truck is documented, and that we document that we've done this inspection and we've done everything we're supposed to so we can build that file. So that's what we've done in the past.
I don't know. Who's been doing like the regular oil changes and stuff like that? Has it been some of the members of the fire department doing that?
Well, some of these trucks are the newer ones, so they haven't had oil changes in 2 years.
Okay.
And most of these trucks we've received in the last 2 years. And so I know when we got the last new ones, we did oil changes when we got them, the ones that came from Virginia, I believe. But that's why it was so important. We knew they were up to that point that needed that maintenance.
Well, we're trying to implement a plan for regular maintenance and upkeep on the trucks. And I realize that there's things that, have to be done by somebody certified, like brakes, I think, right? So, and Ben he caught or noticed one of them wasn't working properly, today, I think it was.
Yeah, my staff have been talking to Ben basically every day.
Okay.
Ben's as accessible as anybody I've ever met. We've got a good relationship working with.
But what we're trying to do is some cost savings here, I don't think I'm the only one on this committee or the commission that thinks this is a lot of money for just regular maintenance, $1,500 a truck, so.
And look, I appreciate that. There's so few companies that touch fire engines. We've been straightforward as we can be with the sheet. We give you what we've got. The fact that, and look, we recognize, the question came up. There was a little confusion when Executive Hatcher pulled money out of the Copper Basin account and started buying this oil and doing that. The question came up, well, is that normal? And I'm like, well, it's completely normal. I mean, state of Tennessee very clearly says the county executive is responsible for the budget and is responsible for maintenance and upkeep of all equipment and facilities we have. So we recognize that everything we do with vehicles, with trucks, with fire stations, we're doing to assist the county executive. It's 100% his prerogative, and we support him completely. And we will continue to support him completely. This last weekend, we were out painting Station 5 on Grassy Creek. So, but here's the other thing, and I've said this for 3.5 years, and I'll say it again tonight. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a vehicle building maintenance guy. We do the best we can do as citizens of this county, as volunteers. We're citizens of this county, and we're giving back to the county we live in and love to try to do the best. Now, if you as a commission feels there's a better way we can do it, there's a better way to save money, we support that. Because every dollar you save is a dollar that can be spent on something else. So we support you, we support Executive Hatcher, but we realize that we're not professionals at this stuff. Now, where we do stand, and I think this is very reasonable, is if it deals with anything that's going to be DOT inspected, I tell my people it's got to be done by a professional. Because if it's an over-the-road truck, DOT doesn't play with that, all right? And if it's anything that deals with fire safety on that pump, it has to be done by a certified professional. Now, I've done a little bit of research since I last spoke to you.
Well, how does West Polk get their work on their own stuff? I mean, this is the only thing I have to compare to. That's the only other fire department we have in the county, West Polk.
Right.
So how do they work on their own stuff and get by with it?
My understanding is they've got highly trained people that are professional machinists, and they've helped us before. I've been over there where Keith Jenski's done magic on some of his stuff.
Is he not going to be willing to help us on these valves? Is that my understanding? Is that right?
He's going to be teaching me.
Okay.
Right? My understanding, and I'm here to give you my professional understanding, and you can take it or leave it. My understanding is when you start doing professional pump work and it's failed a pump test, it's supposed to be done by a certified mechanic. If you find somebody that can do it and then we can get it pumped and we can get it good, I'm all for that. But my understanding is it has to be done by somebody who's professional at that. But, look, I can't speak on behalf of West Polk and what they can and can't do. I don't know. I just want to know that it's going to work.
As I said, that's the only thing I have to compare it to, is what they do down there. It's the only other department we have in the county.
Okay.
And as far as this certified work, like you said, as a DOT, somebody DOT certified, we have people in the county that can do that kind of stuff.
Good. We got burned, I'll be blunt, we got burned. We had some people several years back that had stepped up and volunteered to do some work, and then once the work came back out and we saw the nature of it, and we realized that they had no training in it, we had to kind of put our foot down. There's some things, and in this case, they were working on steering on a fire truck. And when you're working on the steering of a fire truck, you need to be, you've got to know what you're doing. That's a 45,000 pound vehicle driving down our road. I'll just reemphasize, we want the trucks to be in good working order. We want to save money. The more money we save, the more money we can spend somewhere else. I get that, all right? And in the past, West Polk has always been incredibly generous. In 3.5 years, you've never heard me say anything but positive things about West Polk, and I'll continue to say it, especially when you're sitting behind me, you know? But, no, I mean, West Polk has done so much to help us, and the reality is, our goal last month was when we started putting our budget together back in March, we predicted we would need more money than we had received because we could see a lot of repairs were coming up. But it was in this council wisdom, and I respect this, that we held our budget firm because once you start raising budgets, it has implications. But we spoke back in June that, okay, well, probably mid-year, we might have to come back and ask for some more money on maintenance because we knew it was coming up. And that's what the intent was here. I like the idea that the county's finding a way that we can do it utilizing staff in-house. And we will continue as Copper Basin to help every way we can. But as I said, we recognize, we've said all along and we still stand by this. There is an incredibly good partnership between Copper Basin Fire and the county. We provide the people, the response, the training, the on-scene command, and the county provides the fire trucks, the stations, and the equipment. Now, we, as the people, are still willing to come over and do work on these trucks. If there's a light bulb out, if there's something that's broken that we can fix, we'll do it. If it's rolling paintbrushes up and down a building, we'll do that. But when we come to you and say, okay, we've reached the limit of our capability, you know, now we can push it up. And we're perfectly happy. I've talked to Ben. I haven't had a chance to talk to the executive yet, but what we do on building maintenance right now is we fill out a form. If it's something we can't do, we fill out a form. Ben gets it. He makes magic happen. We can do the same thing on vehicles. If it's something that's beyond our scope or capability, we'll simply write it up. We'll give it to Ben. We'll give it to the executive, and we'll go from there.
That's probably a good idea. Like I said, we might not be able to do everything in county, but we have people in county that can do some of that stuff.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that's probably going to be a good idea for us to do that, to see if we can get it done here. I think all of us agree that we'd like to get the work done in county if we can, you know. May not be able to do all of that, but, you know, we're just looking to save money where we can. You know, I'm sure this is a reputable company, but the price seems high to me.
Well, and let me just, they've got a great reputation. They come from out of state, and they come in, and when you bring a diesel mechanic from out of state on a road trip, you're not getting it cheap. We recognize that. So by all means, a local mechanic's gonna be able to do stuff that road crew can't do. So that's the key issue. Now, I've got Steve here, he knows more about this stuff than I do. I did a little research. The challenge we've got right now is 4 of our 5 engines do not pass pump test, and that's a critical issue. NFPA says that we're supposed to take the engine out of service immediately when it fails a pump test. Well, as has often been said, NFPA can stand for not for practical application. We still got to respond to calls. However, I would just say having 4 of our 5 engines right now failing pump tests needs to be considered an urgent issue, and all due timing should be put to it to try to get them up and running.
Yeah, well, I agree, but I asked at the last commission meeting if these trucks were still in services. My understanding is they just won't draft water, right?
Well,
Because of
sir,
the valve?
and I said, we're still running them on calls.
Yeah,
Per the National Fire Protection Agency, they're not in service because they can't pass a pump test. But we still drive them, I can still put a car fire out. The challenge is if we get a commercial building and it doesn't go well, there's your grounds for lawsuit because they're not passing the test. So I want to emphasize that the other thing is the ISO that does all of our insurance the rating system requires for you to have a pump certified engine in the station. If we don't have certified pumps in the station, they don't give us credit for it. Have I misspoke, sir?
Yes, Steve?
Let me take some pressure off of West Polk for just a second.
Okay.
I'm certified on Darley, Hale, and Waters pumps. For the last 22 years, I've done those certifications free of charge. I never received a penny for it. That's one thing, so you understand that. The other point is this. Everybody can't understand how West Polk does what they do. I'm going to tell you how they do it. We have a group of people who are specialists. When we have brake issues, transmission issues, engine issues, it didn't take us but about a year and a half to figure it out that we didn't have a budget to go out there and pay somebody $5,000 or $6,000 to determine if we had a bad injector. But we did have people in there that could come in, inspect the problem and say, oh, you've got a bad brake pod, or oh, you've got a bad injector pump. Now with that in hand, then we could get the part, in some cases buying it ourselves, speccing it, buying it ourselves, and then paying a certified mechanic to put it in. A lot of that cost was collapsed, and we're talking $70,000 or $80,000 a year if you didn't do what we were doing. But it took a tremendous amount of effort on the part of the volunteers to take care of that. Now, West Polk, you know, if they came to me tomorrow and wanted me to go certify their trucks, all the equipment's sitting down there to do it. When you pump test a truck, it's pretty simple to do. But there's also another thing. There's lots of different capacities on these trucks, and you know that as well as I do. They go anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 gallons per minute. What he's saying is partially true, but you can also derate a truck, and we did that. We had a couple of 1250 pumps that wouldn't pass a pump test at 1,250 gallons a minute, but it would pass it as 1,000 gallons a minute. So they allowed us to derate the truck. Now, what effect did that have on us out here fighting fire where when we're flowing water, we're flowing maybe 250 gallons a minute? You only got 1,000 in the tank. You know, there was another avenue I was going to go down there, but I'm lost at it right now. I just want to say this. For 22 years, the county paid for no pump testing because it was being done in-house and the paperwork being done. Now, our system that we bought about 5 years ago, all these records that they're talking about, that system is sitting there, and all we have to do is sit down and type the information in when we get an invoice or repair order. And then when ISO comes to look, nobody's going like, how did you get that ISO value? Because the documentation was there for pump testing. All of the things that they wanted to see was there. Documentation is a big issue, but I just wanted you guys to have a fair shot that we tried to help them where we were able to. Our time's limited. It's not always practical. It's just like a valve issue that I heard about. No one ever come and asked me about why it took so long to get the valve fixed, because it took 4 months to get the parts, or really 3 months to get the parts. The parts weren't available anymore. It was an old valve, and they still made the parts, but they didn't make them where that they kept them in stock. So when I needed the parts kit to fix the valve, I had to order that parts kit and had to wait 60 days to get it. That again factors into why some of the stuff that West Polk does is cheaper. We take a truck out of service, we put another truck in its place if we need to, but we try to stay on top of the leaks. Oh, I know what it was I was going to touch on. Let me say this. When you're pump testing a truck, and you're drafting, as though you're drafting off of a pond or a stream or something, the things that you need in place is a good vacuum climber and the valves all airtight and gaskets and all these things. And more importantly in all of that is that the seals on the pump have to be good. And if you don't have those, you're not going to lift water. Now, there's one or two ways of getting around that. West Polk doesn't gripe water. We pressure nurse all of our trucks. Now, why are we doing that? Because it gets rid of the potential of a firefighter being in a structure and you losing crime because the pump's stuck in there. But I just wanted to lay that out there so that there'd be a little understanding on, a little more emphasis on everything that goes on with this. It's not simple.
Yeah.
But there's companies out there that will absolutely stab you in the heart for a little nothing. And trust me, I know, because when I first started trying to deal with some of these people, I had to just say no. And I had some good friends in Nashville and with the Tennessee Fire Chiefs Association and Tri-State Mutual Aid, and these people fed me information on who to call and who to source and how to get things done. So,
And if I may follow up on that, and I've made this statement, and I will keep making it, I told Executive Hatcher this. The secret, first of all, I don't think most people understand what you've got in West Polk Fire Department. Fire departments, your ISO score of 1 to 9, most volunteer fire departments can never do better than a 6. Across this country, most volunteer fire departments cannot do a 6. These guys are a 4. Dillman, Hiawassee Dam are two of the finest fire departments I know of in this nation. And I'm speaking as the retired fire chief of Jacksonville Fire Rescue and ISO 1. Okay? My weakness is the fact that when you come from a large city, I've got a shop of 46 bays and over 100 mechanics that work on everything. I'm not good at how small town America works. It's not my expertise. I can tell you, I've told Robbie Hatcher this several times in the past, two of the secrets that you've got right now in this county that I want everybody to recognize is Steve Lofty and Keith Ginsky. Those two guys have the ability to do stuff that other people just can't do. And they've been doing it for years and years and years. They're making it look easy, and it's not. Now, the challenge is kind of what we've run into in just the last 6 months. You know, for 3 years, if I have a problem with the fire department, I pick up the phone and I call this man right here. Is that a fair statement? And he and I talk till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on how to do stuff. For 6 months, we kind of lost him a little bit. He had a lot of health issues we had to go through. And I've got to admit, I was putting pressure on him. That put everything on Keith Ginsky's back. And Keith has been battling. Now, what I want, I've already told Robbie, y'all need to be going ahead and getting the molds done for the statues of these two guys. Because they're not going to be around more than about another 30 years or so doing this stuff.
I don't want any awards from those statues.
But the key is
Stay out my grave.
I will emphasize to anybody that listens, look, West Polk is a model fire department. I have never claimed to be able to do what they can do, but they've also got a lifetime of knowledge for this area. They know the mechanics, they know who to call, they can pick up the phone and do stuff. They've got a machine shop over there that would make a professional machinist drool, and they've got the skills and abilities within the department to do those machines. Copper Basin doesn't have the capacity. We were really glad to grab the mechanics we grabbed recently. They've been doing some real good stuff for us, but we're still not at the West Polk level, and we don't claim to be. When I did inquire here 5-6 months back if they were backlogged, they did tell me honestly at West Polk that they had a waiting list of stuff they were working on. Now, I appreciate that they're willing to try to squeeze us in there and get this work done, but look, at the end of the day, there's no pride on my side. I just want fire engines that crank and run and pump water when we go to fires. And we're going to continue to do that for you. But anything we can do to support West Polk and what they're doing is critical because they're the backbone of what we've got going on right now. And that's the thing about it. And it doesn't surprise me to hear him talk about, it makes sense to me. He's got all the certifications. That's the way they've been able to do it.
Well, I recognize that there's a problem with trucks, as I said at the last commission meeting. I said that then, and I say it again, I recognize there's a problem with pumps, valves, and stuff on these trucks. And I recognize that everything's supposed to be NFPA certified and all this other stuff, but we don't have the luxury to take these trucks out of service.
That's right.
We don't have the luxury to do that. If we do, we don't have a fire truck. So we are working toward getting this stuff fixed as best we can. And as County Executive Hatcher said, Ben is going to be getting with Keith Jenkins to try to get some of this stuff fixed. maybe we could look at getting band certified or, you know, some other option between now and then, but we're looking to get this stuff fixed.
If we could get 3 more like him, I think we'd be on the
Well,
right
yeah,
direction.
well, yeah.
I'd like to make a couple notes.
Okay.
So I got a whole laundry list of problems. And I went through a good portion of them with Ben, but these are the quotes that we received for each engine. Some of them are just PMIs for the rescue, or for the rescue trucks and the brush trucks. But the biggest urgency issue that we are encountering at the moment is getting engine 3's brakes fixed. I went over there with Ben today, and he engaged the parking brake. I looked at the pods underneath, and they're not actuating like they should be. So either there's some crud built up in there and some dried up grease, or...
Is that the truck we was talking about? That brake problem? Yeah,
Yeah.
we're aware of that, we're working on that. We're getting ahold of somebody to take that out.
Alright.
But see, to me, this is the beauty of it, is literally, we've got Ben here representing the county, we've got Jerry here representing the volunteer fire department, and they're on their backs today trying to fix these problems. And
Right.
that happens every day. Every day, there's a partnership between the volunteers. I don't even like calling them volunteers, let me call them what they really are. The citizens of this county are on their backs working on these trucks, and they're doing it in partnership with the county executive and Ben. And I think that's a healthy, I think it's a positive thing. But we're just at a point now that some of the stuff's a little more complicated than others.
Right? Yes.
I'd just like to say that, I don't know if you guys are all aware of it, but we recently got a pump and a tank from down in Fort Myers, Florida, from my old department, and brought it back up here. And we actually, the guys at the department, built a brush truck. It didn't cost us any money for the pump, it didn't cost us any money for the tank. We have a beautiful new brush truck now that was built by all the people that are there at the fire department.
That's great.
Great, good.
Any of the other committee members have anything?
I just got a question about the work on the pumps. Does it have to be a certified mechanic to do the pump work?
To do the work.
You have to be
do the test.
NFPA, you have to go through a class that's NFPA
To do the
certified.
work.
They certify you to work on pumps. And the first class that I took was on hell pumps, was 2 weeks long. You gotta understand, I probably spent 4 months just going to pump school.
Yeah.
Over a 10-year period.
Yeah. So,
But with those comes a
so what we've been
certificate.
doing, you've been like, you hadn't done all the work. There's other people working, but they're working
No, I
under your
done-
supervision.
I was, well, yeah, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. When we changed the pump out, you know, you're talking some of them pumps were over 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, there may be 10 or 12 people in the
Yeah.
department that would come in over a period of 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
just pull that pump out, disassemble it for me,
Right.
then Keith and I would go in and inspect, mic,
Yep.
check clearances, you know.
Yeah. So as long as we have one person like you, other people could help perform.
Well, the problem with that is it requires, there's a portion of it that requires me having to be there and doing oversight.
Yeah.
Every time they do something to that pump, I have to be there.
Yeah. So if we could get someone else to be in your position, that would help.
You can, well, bottom line is you can send someone to be certified on probably the bulk of the pumps in the system up
Yeah.
here and down there, Hale. You know, you go through that Hale pump school, and I don't think it's as long as it used to be. I think it's just like a week long now,
Is that what's in all of our internationals?
I think.
Because what we're trying to do intentionally is buy all the same type fire trucks with the same type pumps, just to make that cleaner.
And it also allows you to stop the parts. It's just like they had stuff up here that they call and say, oh, we got a valve pad. And go like, well, come on down here and pick the kid up, because we keep that ball valve in stock. It's $163.
Yeah.
But it takes up to a month and a half to get the damn thing. So you order it and have it on the shelf, and it's paid us again and again and again. In fact, another department, I'm not gonna call the name, bought 2 valves from us, right? Cost me $163, cost them $300. if I'm gonna stock it, you're gonna pay me for it. And they were tickled to get it because they had a $500,000 truck out of service.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's the thing too that I think is great is we've got a lot of the same trucks now intentionally between Steve and what we're doing. And part of what I think the county can do, as we have these dollar savings on this stuff, we can actually put in tool cabinets, keep spare parts, keep the stuff we need locked away so that when we need it, we can do it immediately and we're not waiting for months and we're not paying premium to drive a mechanic in from out of state to do it. I think this could be a positive opportunity for both departments.
Steve, do you know how much it costs to get somebody certified in that or roundabout?
I have no idea, ma'am. I've done that back in
I mean, it might be worth it.
Early
I mean,
80s.
to pay to have somebody if it takes a week, pay to have somebody certified other than one person.
And it's not just, I don't want to leave any piece of turf uncovered. It's okay to sit here and talk about having somebody trained to do this. Pardon my French, there's an S-ton of tools that you gotta have, mics and all kinds of stuff to tear these things down and put them back together. So just having the knowledge of how to do it, being able to read the engineering diagrams where it shows you what the turns are supposed to be when the pump meets certification. But having the equipment, myself and Keith and a couple other people put all of our machining tools together so that we'd have enough stuff to do this. So it's a little more complicated on that side, and I don't want you people thinking, well, hey, if we get somebody trained, they're gonna be good. No, they're not.
Well, and that's my thing is I think Steve and Keith are too humble. You don't just find people like them floating around everywhere. I'm telling you, there's fire departments all over the nation that would fight for these two guys. You've got a professional engineer teamed up with a professional machinist, and they've done wonders. And that is incredible. And one of the things we do, and I know Steve does, is we're constantly looking in the community, trying to find people that are coming into the community with these kind of skill sets, where you can maybe bring in somebody who's got a strong military background with a lot of capability, and then we can send them to some schools and get them up to that speed. But that's how we were able to grab Jerry. As soon as we found out about his background as an aircraft mechanic, all I heard was mechanic, and that's how he came on board and started working with us. And so, but the key is I think sending somebody to school and start getting these certifications. The reality is Keith and Steve are at their limit right now with both what their time and their health allows. And we need to be thinking 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead.
Keith,
Yes.
let's keep in mind, we're talking about two different animals here. Does everybody understand that? I don't think that's very clear. Let me tell you, we're talking about two different animals. One's testing to determine performance and stability. The other one's repair. So it's two different animals. Having the pumps tested is 30 minutes at the side of the creek. And you're gonna know whether it's gonna be able to draft or whether it can flow the way it's supposed to flow. Then if it don't, then the other side comes into play. What's it gonna take to fix it? How old's the pump? How bad's it wore? All those things.
Right.
One's pretty easy, the other one can get very technical and expensive fast.
And the truck's the same way. So not only do they gotta be trained on the pump side of it, they gotta be trained on the chassis side of the truck and the powertrain of the truck. So they're all different entities that require certifications. Right?
Well, maybe what we should do, what you're saying is start now to try to get somebody certified in these testing and
Then later on,
if it
get into
requires
the pump
a
repair.
certified person for repairs,
Mhm.
we need to get in that, because I've worked on this stuff you're talking about, not fire trucks, but pumps and
Right.
valves and all that. So there's people who can do the work, but if you gotta have the certifications, I know most things, you've got one person, everybody works under that one person's certification. Everybody don't have to be certified. But I think that, with guidance from somebody like Steve, that's got the experience and the certification, you know, because most jobs you hit, you got one guy that knows what's going on, and he's up there pointing and telling. And then every now and then they'll ask, who died and left you, boss? And I said, every man that's ever asked me what you want me to do. So, you know, there's somebody got to take the lead on every job, and that's what we need to do now, is let somebody take the lead to get these certifications if we're going to try to keep the cost down. Or we're going to have to come up with the money to pay for all this.
I'll tell you, I really think the solution, we're already on the track now. I think the best money the county spent in a long time is when they hired Ben to do facilities maintenance.
Hey, I'll tell you what, that man right there was his chin.
We have seen him do stuff.
We got very lucky to get these, and we need more.
Well, and what I was gonna suggest.
Let the air out of his head.
Along the line, you don't put butter in it, it'll slip out of it.
But the other side of it, and I think it's along the lines, is as the county looks forward, being able to pick up the counterpart to Ben, that's the vehicle maintenance side of the facilities maintenance side. It means growing the staff by another person.
Yes.
But the amount of money we spend on vehicle maintenance all the way across the board, getting somebody in here that you can send off to schools, get the certifications, team up with the volunteers that can get in and do the work, that's a win-win. And you gotta spend a little bit of money on the front end, but it's gonna, look, these people are, you know, we've all been watching what's going on in Congress right now. There are Senate hearings right now about why a fire engine costs $1.1 million in the United States. Talking about price fixing and getting ripped off. So we buy fire trucks for $3,500 a piece, then we talk about spending $600 or $1,500 to fix it. Getting people that are certified and trained and getting somebody that can be with us for some years, I think is the way to go. And working with the executive, just like Ben's doing, I think is the right way to go.
I think that's good for plan forward.
And you're not that good, you're just.
Ben says that he's more than willing to go, and we don't care one bit, we'll look in and see what that cost will be, and bring it back before the commission here in the next couple of months. So we're gonna get him certified.
Well, I told Robbie Day on the phone, was talking about Ben and the money saved. I mean, I'll be the first one to bring it up at budget time, we gotta try to get him with more money before we lose you. I mean, you saved a bunch of money this year.
Really does.
And,
Really does.
and you get that experience on your resume, I mean, you can easily go somewhere else, so.
And Commissioner, I can tell you, he does it every day with a smile on his face too.
Well, that'd be
You
brought
don't
up
hear
at
him
budget
complain.
time, for sure.
And what was the next part of that I told both you and Keith on Ben's sake, that I'd like to have another one.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I'll be the first one to say it, it's not safe for Ben to be out here and doing
All by itself.
it. Just like the
Thank you.
incident I had over at the Grassy Creek Fire Hall, working on the door, when the door came up that day. I mean, had that been him by himself?
I would have manned up and took it. You forget this is the man that drove all the way home, and he was begging, no, let me.
Let me drive.
So by the way, that door broke again, we need you back over there.
That's me.
So as of right now, where do you stand? Just the pumps issue?
The issues right now is the brakes on engine 3 are an immediate repair, and the pumps as soon as we can get them done. As we
The
said,
thing on those brakes is that was found at 2:58 today.
Right.
well,
Because I was on the phone with Chad Boring at 2:55.
We-
And Ben had texted me while I was actually on the phone with Chad to see about getting those brakes done, because that's something that we talked about, what parts can, what parts can't.
the other issue, so tanker or engine 3 at Grassy Creek, the tanker that's sitting there, it's got something going on with the steering. You get it about 45 miles an hour. It's carrying a lot of water. It starts getting squirrely, so we need it looked at. And then as soon as we can, to get these pumps where they can pump, because, you know, like I said, if ISO comes in, they're gonna slap us about our head and shoulders. So, right now, if the fire comes in, I'll be the first one to jump on one of these engines and go fight fire with it. But it's our responsibility to let you know that we're not in a good spot and we need to fix it as soon as practical.
So how do they perform with water stored?
With water stored, right now, they're still pumping. All right, we haven't had a problem with that. It's, if we had to start drafting out of a pond, lake, or river, they can't do it.
Good.
So there's one engine that can draft. There's another one that failed because it overheated. And then the two others, engine 4 out of Sandra Mountain, that one has a transfer issue. They specifically said it could be an hour job or it could be a day job. It just depends on when it, on what's happening inside the pump. And then engine 2, I can't recall. It's all on the pump test. But again, I can't say. Engine 3 is the critical one.
Do you have any trucks up here that will draft, as you thought?
Yes, sir, we've got one right now.
You've got one?
And simply put, there's no secrets. If I get a commercial structure fire where I'm drafting, I'm calling for Hiawassee Dam, Wolf Creek, and
Yeah.
Cannon. And they will come in, they'll back us up with
Yeah,
trucks.
I understand that. I just want to know where we stand.
You use hydrant, Marty, fill them with?
Right. We're still filling them all hydrants, that's how we're doing it. And we have tanker shuttles because North Carolina and Fannin have strong tankers that they can get to us also.
Yeah.
So we've got Plan B, Plan C. We always have a plan. But you know, it's important to me as the fire chief to let y'all know where we sit with this fleet so we can get it in the best place we can go.
Well, let me ask this, how many instances, let's say a year, would you need to throw your hose off in a pond or a creek?
It's not even per year, it might be once every 3 years. Last time I did it was when we burned up the Whitewater Center. However, now let's talk certification.
Yeah.
In order for us to get an insurance rating,
Yes.
they have to pass the test. And right now, we're in ISO of 6. If we go to 10, people can expect probably a 400% to 600% increase on their insurance.
Yep.
And I don't want to get run out of town already.
I'm just trying to get a feel of what we.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I understand that we're not going to solve this tonight, but I need it to have some sense of urgency that we get it solved as soon as we can, because it does have a direct impact on the insurance rating. And, but we've all got to be practical here too. That's what I mean, not for practical application. NFPA can get tricky sometimes.
In West Polk, how many engines do we have that can draft?
7.
7? Well, is there any way that we could lend a truck to East Polk?
All
during
those
this time?
frontline trucks are tied to the districts and the stations. We got 7 districts and 7 engines.
That means they can't be.
According to the state, because I've heard all about people panicking. So if the county commission was, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Steve, you've got more years than I do, but, so in that instance, and if it did get that bad, this county legislative body could pass a resolution that for a time period would allow West Polk Fire and Rescue to cover the entirety of the county. Then the ISOs would be met, and that ISO rating would not go up and cost the taxpayer.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, is that something that we could do, Steve?
That
Well,
would be the worst case.
Hold on. I can't speak for West Polk because I'm no longer a chief.
Oh, well, just
No,
your
I'm
opinion.
I'm just curious, as the EMA director and as an interested party. So let's talk about something funny that happened a number of years ago. All I've heard my whole life was West Polk's trying to take over the east side. Right? That was we always down there thought it was funny because it's a, how many minute drive up here?
Yeah.
But not calling no names, but a certain individual didn't get his chief card. Mr. Firestone called me and said, they'll be here in the morning to shut down the fire department. And I went like, excuse me? And he explained to me, and so I get a hold of this individual, and I'm going like, what are you doing? He said, well, I just didn't have time to go do it. I said, but after 3 years? So I called the state back and I said, can I stand in as the certified fire chief for a district other than West Polk? And he said, oh yeah, if you do the paperwork, send it to us, we'll sign off on it. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And I deliberately told him, I said, don't go up there and radio this, it's not a big deal. But eventually, we got a certified fire chief up here, and for the longest, until Mike Worley told some of them, nobody ever knew that.
But we've got options as far as ISO, and I'm gonna get you to keep confusion down, repeat what you said about it from my facts, but there's also, I mean, worst case scenario, as far as ISO, we found out you can do a county-wide fire chief,
Yes.
and then have like chief 1 and 2 on each end of the county under them, so we've got options.
Well,
Yeah, if we need
if you're talking about a county fire marshal,
No,
is that
this just the chief as far as ISO.
countywide fire chief?
The challenge, we've got the chiefs for ISO, that's not a problem. But what ISO also requires is you have to have an ISO, an engine that's pump certified in each station within 5 road miles. So each of we now have 12 stations in this county. We would need 12 engines that can tackle pump heads. And otherwise, that area that doesn't have a fire engine in it, that area would be decertified and put to a 9X, and that's what we.
Okay, but let's be fair that they understand that ISO comes every 5 years. So the imminency of this is the trucks being able to graft and draw water. There's time, even with us down there, we've had trucks that failed pump tests, and it took us a year to get them fixed. And ISO, we had to sign off with ISO, and they said, okay, they understand. So y'all need to understand that there's a difference between dead and dying and slowly dying with a bad disease.
And
We may have a bad disease right now, but we're not dying.
We did our ISO up here 3 years ago, so we're about 2 years out from this next inspection.
And what you said about the,
So I talked with the state, what was the title of that gentleman, Steve? Or not title, the department of the state?
Department of Insurance,
Correct.
Commissioner of Insurance.
And I was actually in a meeting with Mike Bell, who is in that now, this past week, whenever I was up at Pigeon Forge. And so he says that what the state would look at as far as that goes, because ISO is a separate entity, as long as the county was working towards, if there was a compliance issue, was that it would be as simple as the county legislative body that would pass a resolution that would designate West Polk until the time period could be fulfilled or till the issues could be sustained. And then that would cover, from the state's perspective, that the county was working towards getting that issue resolved. Because like I said, I've been answering phone calls about, is my insurance going up because of my ISO rating? And the answer to that is currently no. And once people hear that, because that's what they're afraid of, that's one of the rumors they're hearing. As I see a lot of heads bobbing, that's one of the rumors that they hear. And whenever they find out that there is a way to get that worked out, because yes, that falls on the taxpayers. Now, do I want one department, like Steve said, been trying to be emphasized? You know, I could see where that would cause confusion and a possible takeover and all those things, and that's not the point of it. The point of it is that this county legislative body represents the people of this county, and I, as the county executive, you have to do what's best for everybody in the county, because it's their taxpayer dollars that we are looking out for.
so, as long as we're making an effort, then it's not in it.
Correct.
Okay.
And as well, like Steve said, like Marty just said, Marty said they're 2 years to go on their last ISO. You know, it's not that there's a death, there's a sickness, but I think that's how the lofty worded it. You know, it's just working to get these matters resolved, to get them taken care of.
And I'm gonna go back to something I told you guys earlier. You wanna know what West Polk's success is? We don't let nobody come in and tell us it's broke and we're gonna fix it for $7,000. We had that happen one time, it didn't happen again. We had people come in and check out what the specific problem was. Because a pump that won't go in gear isn't the same as a pump that won't do a vacuum test or drafting. Those are two totally separate issues. And have two different directions of preparing, two different costs. So I just feel like you guys need to be fully aware that we used a process of elimination on everything that we did down there, everything. Even when we bought a tool that we needed to do a job with, we wouldn't buy a tool unless we knew that we was gonna use it multiple times, so that we could see the cost. And I'm gonna tell you, you talked about a machine shop down, yeah, there's a machine shop down there. Would you guys like to know how much that saved the county in the last 17 years? No, I mean, just take a wild guess, because I know what the bids were on this stuff. We're talking a couple $100,000 that we saved because we were doing our own valves, our own pumps, we were doing all of it ourselves, even the engine repairs, drive lines and stuff like that. But there's certain things we didn't do. When it comes to the brakes on those trucks, that's where I drew a line. I'd have somebody come in, inspect, and say, oh yeah, you got a brake pod bad, replace it. Not replace all the brakes and then say, oh, you got a brake pod bad. I'm just trying to say that being point on what the problems are and narrowing it down and have somebody that knows what they're looking at, look at it, then get a price.
Well, I just want to say, I can see taking the truck out of service because it won't stop, it don't have brakes, I can understand that. But I can't see taking the truck out of service that will still pump water, that just taking it out just because it will draft water. We don't have that luxury here.
Let me make you feel good. In 17 years I was chief down there, I can think of probably 19 or 20 times that I had trucks that would not pass pump certification. Overdrafting. And he just stood up and told you, you might draft once every 2 years. Is that a major problem? I didn't see it as being so because I had other engines. We even adopted a practice down there where we don't draft water. We pressure nurse everything. It either comes off a hydrant or out of a tank or out of another engine. But I want you to understand, we operated trucks down there that fell below, say, a 1,250 gallon pump that won't draw draft, but yet will flow 1,190 gallons a minute. Excuse me? The most I'm ever going to use of that at any given time is unless I'm putting major lines down, as you know, Keith. And then we're talking 500 gallons a minute, and if we're drafting off the tank or coming off a plug, it don't really matter. But I just don't want y'all thinking that just because a truck will not perform the pump test, that it can't continue to be used. We did it multiple times, but we also had a game plan over that we were going to get it repaired so that it did meet the certification.
As I said, I recognize there's a problem with the truck, and we are working to fix it. So, I get that. No, I don't want that to go misunderstood. We recognize there's a problem with them, and we're working to fix it.
Well, that eased my worries too. I thought before the meeting tonight, this has been a learning process, but I thought, ISO rating and a proper homeowner's insurance was imminent. But I mean, that's good. It's not, as long as we're working toward it or whatever.
Well, I don't like to throw gasoline on fire. But District 2 in the lower end went for 8 years without a station. And as long as ISO knew that we were trying to put it back in, they didn't say a word. So does that tell you a little bit about how well they'll work with you? All you gotta do is ask them.
Well, that's good.
The worst mistake you're ever gonna make with any of these state agencies, and every one of you sitting up there knows this, that's not calling them and letting them. If you don't let them know what's going on, and they find out and they have to come and ask you about it, you're gonna have a problem. I was always happy picking the phone up and calling and saying, hey, look, I got a problem. And 9 out of 10 times, they'd say, okay, let us know when you get fixed. And then even sometimes they'd say, well, you need to call this person because he can help you get that took care of.
Right.
So it was a win-win.
Well,
I talk too much.
I think we've got a plan on the maintenance and repairs. There's a couple other issues I think we need to discuss. So Do it.
Chairman, I do have a question. on
Okay.
What y'all were talking about there a minute
Okay.
ago. Steve, you said something about declassifying some of the trucks.
You derate the truck.
Degrade the truck. Is
Yeah,
that
you
possible?
derate pumps.
Okay, is that possible on any of the trucks that's up here now, degrade and have it within a working?
Well, the only reason you would degrade a truck, just so that you understand, is it's just simply impossible, more expensive to repair than it's worth.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't know if you could degrade it and then come in and repair it to get it back up. to
Well,
where-
if you're gonna repair it, you don't have to derate it, because you've got adequate time to get it done.
Okay.
They're gonna work with you on that.
All right. Another thing I was want to mention, a few years ago, we had some issues with ISO in my district, and it's been several years back. Now, I've talked to a couple of people from ISO. ISO is not the only formula used. Not all insurances use ISO ratings.
But it's the most recognized.
It is the most recognized. I think they told me about 56% of the insurance companies use them. But as State
I can't
Farm,
remember, there's another one, like IGA or something like that, that's out there that does.
it's situation based.
It's based on the insurance company, who they're telling how much they're gonna give them to say yes or no. That's where that comes from. ISO don't play that game.
Right, but
They basically go in and you either meet the requirements or you don't.
right, but State Farm, I think Allstate, neither one of them use ISO. And there's several others, so.
But then Farm Bureau is probably
Farm
the
Bureau
next one in
does.
this area is ISO, because
Yes.
I can tell you, I've had, I don't know how many different insurance companies in my 17 years as chief down there that call me wanting to know what Polk County's ISO rating was. When I tell them before, they'd lose their mind. Oh, no, that's no way. That's what we're Bradley County. And I'm like, well, okay, you need the document? I'll literally have to fax the document to them, but there's a lot of them, and you're right, there's some companies out there that don't qualify ISO. But the catch to it is when you look at the standards between them and what ISO, how they're rated, they're basically the same thing. You know, it's like saying apples and apples or orange and oranges. It's basically the same standards.
I just want to make sure everybody was aware, it's not, this ISO is a great standard, but it's not actually required by all insurances to use. Some of them do use a different set of standards.
Let me say this, the biggest reason you're gonna hear a lot about ISO is this, and I'll just lay the cards on the table. You ever wreck one of these trucks at West Polk, you kill somebody? There's three documents that are gonna come forward. First one's gonna be your training, the other one's the maintenance on the truck. And then who you think they're gonna look at? What's your rating? You know, if you're rating a 9, you got problems, you go to court. The lower your rating is, the less effect it's gonna have you in court defending yourself over maintenance and proper training. Does that make sense?
Somewhat, yeah. But I'm just looking at the.
Well, I'm just
person
saying-
With the house insurance is what I'm talking
When
about.
you're talking ISO, where does ISO come from? It comes from the National Fire Protection Administration, which is the federal agency that sets all the standards. And all ISO does is take some of those standards and ISO doesn't draw on all of them. Because this is going to tell you right now, they've got things in the NFPA that you'll never be able to accomplish.
Okay.
You know, in this county, it'll never happen. But by and large, NFPA sets that standard. ISO pulls off a certain, if you take NFPA's requirements for a Class A engine and ISO's requirements for a Class A engine, and you hold them side by side, you'll see a lot, say 70% of the items will be exactly the same, ladders and axes and all this garbage. But then there's this difference in the amount of hose that this truck has and how much that truck pumps versus over here, it's different. So ISO is actually a little easier than NFPA.
I was just looking at like my house insurance,
Mhm.
my fire coverage, my house. ISO used to be a lot higher. You remember around Benton Station?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be we had a higher number.
Right.
All right. My insurance didn't go down when the ISO number went down.
Right.
Okay, I paid the same because my company did not use ISO. That's what I'm saying.
And I've had a lot of people come and tell me this, and I tell them, say, then quote an insurance company that recognize ISO, see what the difference is. And I honestly, being honest, I've actually people call me back and said, well, it's a little bit less, but not much. So that told me that the two standards were pretty close to each other.
That's all I had to do, Mr. Chairman.
This ain't nothing about y'all, we look at numbers, we always got questions. A couple of these lines are 90%, which is understandable, like the maintenance. You know, when you get your money, I'm sure you got stuff waiting to do. Are like 90% spent already. What about the fuel? You're at 90% on it, 3 months in the budget year.
I'm not sure what you're looking at, sir.
Your fuel line in the budget, gasoline,
Okay?
it's at, well, we're 3 months into the budget year, and it's 90%.
I'm not familiar with that. That number is a kind of a pass-through number. It shows up in the Copper Basin budget, but it's handled by the executive staff. We don't deal at all with the cost of fuel. It goes straight from, I guess, the road department to the county.
I mean, well, what I'm saying, y'all are gonna be out pretty quick, you know, your fuel allowance. It's like 3 months in the budget year, 90% of it's been spent already.
I'm not familiar with that number. I can go back and look.
Some of them, like, I mean, it's understandable, like your maintenance, because obviously, I guess y'all are waiting, you know, come July 1st, start working on stuff.
That's right.
So that's kind of normal, but
There's, I call them the gray columns, to oversimplify it. There's several columns in our budget. Insurance, for example, fuel, gas cost, there might be a couple others in there that they show up in the Copper Basin budget because it's related to it, but we never have any transaction with that. Now, sometimes mistakes happen. We caught one the other day where Copper Basin budget was being charged, Volunteer Electric was getting charged our budget. And they took a phone call and they realized, no, that was the West Polk, should have been the West Polk station and not the Copper Basin stations. But we do run, comparatively speaking, we're running the same number of vehicles this year as last year, so you should see the fuel cost running at the same pace. That hasn't changed.
I'd asked a question about LZs here just a little while back, and we've done a little more checking at the hospital. At the hospital. Y'all do not do the LZs at the hospital, correct?
We asked them to land at the airport, correct?
Okay, checking on that, the hospital, it turns out is a GPS designated landing site.
Yes, it is. And I'm glad he's here because Steve was part of this conversation, so let me, GPS designated. They did a GPS pattern into that hospital back years ago when it was a functioning hospital. It had security, they would come in and land just like every hospital. When the hospital went away and there was no longer security staff there, over time that pad is now smaller than they want it to be. They also want lights on it, they want fences on it, but yes, it has a GPS coordinate that goes in there. The reason they asked for the fire department to stand by there, the simple question was, why do you want the fire department to stand by? It's a big giant pad with an H on it. And their answer was because from a safety perspective, it did not meet their perspective to do a unassisted landing, so they would always request somebody stand by.
They can't do a hot load.
Well, they can do a lot of stuff, but the issue is from a safety perspective, and they said it was more for security because there's no fence and all. What if somebody tries to run up under the helicopter or something like that? So then the question was, is from a safety perspective, where is the safest place for a helicopter to land? Just pure practical, where's the safest? And that answer was the airport. So what we did is, my answer back to the ambulance service, well, y'all land, wherever you want, but this is what we're saying. I reached out to Steve. Steve said that in this county and only in this state, the fire department sets the LZ. So what we did in order to be open and transparent about it and have a talk is Steve convened the meeting down in Benton, and it was myself from Copper Basin, Steve representing EMA. We had
Did you read that, Christie Sanders?
we had the supervisors from the air ambulance service as well as the supervisors from the ambulance service. And we all had a meeting there for about an hour. And this is the interesting part. The air ambulance service said, we'll land wherever y'all want us to. All right, so then they backed out. They don't want the liability. The ambulance service, the supervisors from Atlanta quickly said they did not want to be in the discussion. They would land wherever the fire department designated the LZs to be. EMA said it's wherever the fire department designates them to be. And we were all in agreement in that room. It all came back to they wanted Copper Basin Fire Department to make the decision. Am I misspeaking, Steve? No. So then we came back out and I did my due diligence. I started talking to different pilots that I know, including some of these air medical pilots. That's when they explained to me the science of landing a helicopter. Anytime you can use ground effect to land or take off, it puts less pressure on the motor. So when you can come in at the airport and you can take off and run up down that runway, or you can come in that way, it's much safer and they don't have to put the RP on as high. When you do a direct vertical lift of a helicopter is when you put the most strain on. And so their answer to me is, everything being equal, an airport is a safer place to come in and take off and land from an engine perspective. And if you take off and land at an airport and something goes wrong, you've got a lot of room to make corrections. You're not hitting something. If something goes wrong at the airport, you're hitting a flagpole, you're hitting a building. And so as the fire chief of Copper Basin, looking at all those facts, we said, look, we'll still land at 123 and 68. We'll still land out here at Boyd's Gap like we do. But if you're landing up here on this 64 corridor, land at the airport. Now, my understanding, and this is just county stuff, some of the paramedics, not the supervisors, not the company, but some of the paramedics themselves said, well, we've always landed here, we want to keep landing here. And we explained to them what their company had said in that meeting, that the company put it on us. And as a person who's been a pilot myself, what is the safest way to do it? And so we made that decision, and then some of the paramedics chose to call for the helicopter and land there anyway. And our answer to them was, that's fine. You're taking on the liability of where you want to land that helicopter. And that helicopter lands at that medical center several times a month now. And it has been. But the difference is the ambulance service paramedic is the one taking the liability upon themselves to make that decision. But that wasn't the agreement we had in the room. The agreement we had in the room in Benton was that the fire department would make the decision. But for some reason, this has been going on for 2.5 years, and boy, if I have a problem with tire pressure in a fire engine, these LZs come up. And really, it's a county decision. My thing is most people, we have an incredible, beautiful, certified airport sitting right down the road. It is one of the greatest assets this county has. It has lights. It has a rotating beacon. I've heard a lot of just fake statements. Well, the medical center's GPS has GPS bearings going into it. Yes, it does. So does the airport. Oh, no. The airport's not in the charts. I said, I'm going to have to call BS on that. Every FAA certified airport in the United States is in their charts. They know exactly where it is. As a matter of fact, the approach to come into the medical center from visual flight rules is you fly to the airport turn west and come in and land at the medical center. They have to come in from east to west to land at the medical center safely. So they have to go out and go over the airport to come in. And because they're coming so close to the airport at that altitude, they get on the frequency and immediately announce that, hey, the medical unit is going to be coming through the airspace to land at the airport. They're already having to communicate with all of the air traffic coming in. But this is one of those simple things is when I've asked the reverse question. I've said, look guys, what am I missing? Why do you want to land at the medical center? And the only answer I've gotten is because we always have. And I'm still, if somebody, I am open to this, if somebody can give me a good logical reason that we're landing at the pad versus landing at an airport 2 miles away, I'd love to hear it. But I can say myself, if we ever have an air accident and they come in and they start asking questions of why did you pick landing here versus picking landing there, I want to be able to very clearly articulate, well, landing at an airport with, what is that, a 1,500, 2,000 foot runway?
3,500 feet.
2,500?
35.
35? That gives you a whole lot more room if something goes wrong. Now, Jerry, I know you fly helicopters. Am I wrong on the lift, vertical lift versus ground effect?
No, it puts a lot of weight on the.
When you lift straight up, as a matter of fact, if you're lifting straight up, 80% is their red line that they don't go over because of safety. If you're picking up out here on certain weather days and you're going straight up, you have more of a load restriction on your helicopter than if you're lifting off at the airport. So they actually are within more of a safety margin taking off from the airport.
When they land at the airport, do y'all send the unit out there for LZ?
No, sir, we don't have to because it's considered a certified airport. They land at airports all day long with no fire trucks. The reason they wanted us here, and Commissioner, I appreciate you asking this question because I asked it. Why do you can land in McKaysville at the Life Force 4. They land at McKaysville behind the electric company every day with no fire engine standing by. They land at Fannin every day with no fire engine standing by. Why do you need a fire engine standing by at the medical center? And they said something profound. Well, it's not as safe as those other ones. And I said, well,
tail rotor, isn't it?
Well, it's because they're landing so close to a building, it doesn't have the proper lights, and the flagpole's not marked properly. And I believe they don't have a fence around. But all of those things cost money, and when the medical center was closed, I know several years back, or 3 years back, we had some conversations about how much would it cost to repair the lights, to extend the pavement, and the money just wasn't there. And the truth is you've got the pride of Copper Basin in our airport sitting 2 miles away at Martin Campbell Airfield that just, heaven forbid, we land aircraft at an airport. And that's the thinking. The other thing we ran into since I've been the fire chief is that airport, that pad, you can land one helicopter there. Now what happens when you need 2 helicopters or 3 helicopters? If you're landing at the airport, I can stack 15 helicopters up at the airport. If I've got a mass casualty incident and I need to bring in a bunch of aircraft, I can't. I can't do that over there sitting at the medical center. And so my professional opinion as the chief of the Copper Basin Fire Department, I'm the one required to make the decision, and the decision I made, because nobody's been able to give me a good reason not to do it the other way, is if you're landing on the Highway 64 corridor, land at the airport. We have picked patients up at the golf course on Highway 64 that needed to be flown out, and I have watched the ambulance drive past the airport and go 2 miles further down the road so they could land a helicopter at a medical center. And you're like, come on guys, I know you've always done it this way, but is it the right thing to do? And I bring up too, the way I got pulled into this is about 2.5 years ago. It's been that long, 2 years ago. They had 2 back-to-back air ambulance accidents in this region. And what it did is it did a safety call out to every air ambulance. And the pilots were told, you had better be following every regulation on air ambulance operations. And that's when they brought up that there's no fence around medical center, the lights aren't working, the air cycle's not up, the building's too close, the concrete is not within regulations anymore. That's when they brought it up to me. We didn't go looking for this discussion, they brought it to us. And that's how we came up with this answer to the airport. But to close with this, when we made this decision, it wasn't a decision Marty made by himself. I sat in the room with Steve, I sat in the room with the supervisors from the ambulance company, and I sat in the room with the supervisors from paramedical. And when we all walked out of there, we all walked out of there in agreement, and I told them all exactly what my thinking was. I told them why I thought the airport was the best place to land, and we had concurrence when we walked out of there. Now, some of the paramedics didn't agree with their supervisors, and that's a discussion between the paramedics and the supervisors. But that's how we left it.
And the reason the meeting was called was because we were getting conflicts about where to land helicopters even in the west end. You know, the EMS people would call us and tell us, well, we want you to land here or there. And there are some restrictions on our bed that we might not have crews available at that point to send a truck to do the LZ. So we always left it, and it stood standard, and when we talked with Life Force, we explained to them, we'll decide where you're gonna set down, not your EMS people, because it causes too much confusion on our part when we're trying to handle a wreck or where the scene may be, and then decide where to land a helicopter. So this was a broader conversation than just the hospital. But the hospital, I wanted, personally from the EMA standpoint, I wanted to hear it straight from the creature's mouth, from the EMS owners and from Life Force, what they expected from us and what we expected from them. You know, and we made our decisions, which really nothing changed for us, other than the fact that the crews on the ambulance weren't saying, well, land the helicopter here or there. We decided where it was landing. And that was the end of it for us. And I've never heard any problem since then, because our resolution came through Life Force and EMS owners. And they were very clear what they would expect responsibility of and not. And we fell into it because nothing really changed for us. I mean, just so y'all understand.
Right.
But we still felt like that there was questions, because there had been an occurrence where they were landing, and we landed helicopter, and we would have had to take a truck on the north end of 411 and went past the wreck to the south end of 411 to set an LZ up, and we said, no, have them meet us at we used to land down there where Red Food is now.
Yeah.
They said, no, you go there, and that's where we're gonna meet you, because we had available people. But that's the reason we wanted to have a meeting. We just wanted to get clarity on who makes the final decision. And the number one thing that I got from Life Force was two things. The number one is the LZs having an engine there wasn't for fire suppression, and I always knew that. It had more to do with keeping people away from the helicopter.
That rotor.
Those rotors and stuff, while they were tending to the patients. So when you see West Polk send a fire truck down there, it's for two reasons. One, so they have a light so they can see where we are. And the second one is so that there's adequate personnel to make sure that some bystander over here don't pull up on the road and walk up to where that helicopter is. So that's the main reason we do it.
On the night land non-certified location, it still take 3 vehicles for LZ?
Well, it does if you don't have the flares to put down.
That's what I'm
We have
saying.
the rotor flares that we put out. It only requires, really doesn't require vehicles if you've got those rotors down. It doesn't have to have lights on it. In fact, they'd rather we cut, they'll tell us sometimes, turn the lights, the emergency lights off. And when you hear them say that on the radio, then you need to think that there's an octagon LED flare sitting on the ground that's firing this up, and they can see all 4 of them contact points, and that's where they land. So
What's the one I seen in Ocoee? You know, we mow everything in Ocoee, and I've seen that helicopter land a bunch of times. why do the firefighters get out with their fire hose and squat down, ready to turn it on, if it's not for fire suppression?
Okay, now you wanna hear that, that's considered training. That's considered suppression training.
Oh, okay.
What they're doing when they do that, it becomes training for them to deploy a hose in a certain amount of time. And we would do what's called a hot line and a dry line. A hot line's got water on it, that engage the pump, and that's the second stage of that training. Most of the time, they'll put a dry line on the ground, but it's also so that if something goes wrong, then we're not having to try to pull 300 feet of hose off top of the truck, turn the pump on and everything.
After the fact.
After the fact, it's too late.
So it is sort of a fire suppression.
Oh, yes, and don't be surprised if you go by and you see a fire truck sitting there, and the only thing you see sitting out there is a 20-pound dry chemical extinguisher, because that's another part of their training. We teach them that there's multiple tools you can use in doing that. So what we're doing is, if we take the fire truck away from them, and we have to set an LZ up, and they have access to a 20-pound fire extinguisher, one person can successfully do a daytime LZ in the adequate space. So if that helps you, you go by and see a dry chemical extinguisher sitting there and nothing else pulled off the truck, that's part of their training, that's what they're doing. They're learning how to deploy that fire extinguisher in the event that that thing flames out, and they can run up there and probably be like the rest of us, get killed trying to put it out.
We do have a rural hospital grant that may help with fencing and lighting over there that we're gonna look to apply for. That might be helpful. Also, it's a 4-lane road over there, which might be why the paramedics prefer that as opposed to a residential 2-lane road. So that might be the concern. I mean, Airport Road is a 2-lane road from what I know. It's a 4-lane
So,
road.
it's a great example, and unfortunately, when we're training, they're gonna teach us to go for roads anymore because of the amount of power lines over roads. So roads are more or less veered away from, but they are a ground reference point. But from the air, the airport is visible from 10 miles
I'm
away.
just talking about the paramedics traveling to
Yeah.
and from. It's a 4-lane road versus a 2-lane residential road. Might be why they have greater preference.
Well,
And I could be wrong, I'm not a paramedic, but that's for all of the things that I've done to work towards that. Putting in speed bumps, for example, they look at travel time with putting in speed bumps. Using residential roads, what is that benefit versus not, so.
Well, if you can imagine, say you have 4 cars that get into a crash. You have 2 helicopters that need to land. You're blocking now all 4 of those roads, an ambulance, and then you have the backup traffic of all of the people that have been trying to use those roads, but because of the accident, the ambulance actually has a harder time getting to where they need to go through all of that.
On a 4-lane road versus a 2?
I mean, it depends on the accident, but if you can see from a
I'm talking about just
helicopter's
traveling
point
to
of
and
view,
from.
depends on who's driving. It depends, all right, so it ultimately
I'm
depends
not
on.
arguing, I'm not saying one's better than the other, I'm just saying one is a 4-lane road versus a 2-lane road. One has greater access in and out versus the other.
Speaking as a retired paramedic and taking patients to helicopters all my life down in Florida, I preferred going on 2-lanes road, less traffic.
I'm not trying to argue, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
no,
that
I'm
might
just
be why they prefer that, is it's greater access. 4 is greater than 2 at the end of the day.
So 2 points I do want to bring up. Ultimately, at the call, when the helicopter comes in, it's ultimately up to the pilot to determine if he is going to make the landing or not. He has the final say-so before the skids touch the ground. Second of all, 183, the airport, it has RNAV approach, which means that helicopter can come in and implement weather. So I think that IFR through RNAV approach, which is what they use for RNAV, or for IFR. So that is one big thing for coming in, if that sways. But that's a big thing. It's the second qualification you get flying fixed wing or rotor.
I'm gonna touch on budget just a minute, because there was some commissioners that had some concerns. From this point this year to this point last year and this point the year before, you're about 20% more into your budget than what you were last year at this time and the year before at this time. So just a word of caution, this goes through June 30th of 2026.
Or is there particular sublines that we're talking about?
You'll have to get with Catrice, she's the Director of Accounts and Budgets, and she can explain where you're at. That's where we got the information. And there was some commissioners that had some concerns, and I just, if you're unaware, I'm only bringing that to your attention.
No, I appreciate that. Just keep in mind, I'm not the only one that pulls from that budget.
Okay, well, you might want to make your financial people
Okay, well,
aware.
I know, but let me state it a little bit different. Copper Basin never pulls any money out of that budget. We send paperwork in to the budget office and they do the POs.
But
we
you're
do send
you're
in-
responsible for your budget.
It's not my budget, it's the county's budget. No, in all seriousness, and I say it that way because we have to make a request to the county. That money's not given to Copper Basin.
Okay.
And recently, and it's just an example, there's times that Catrice and those people will go into that budget and take money out.
That's your operating budget. Am I correct on that? That's his operating
It
budget?
is.
All right?
Okay.
The challenge is money comes out of that budget that we're not notified of. That's the challenge. But I'll be happy to look at it.
So now, the only money I'm
The only
aware
money
of,
that I'm aware of is whenever I took $2,800, and so my stance on that was, is if I didn't take it from East Polk to do what West Polk's doing, now I've got to double dip, and I'm gonna give to West Polk what I gave to East Polk from this county's budget. So, if West Polk can maintain their vehicles, that's the way I looked at it, if West Polk can maintain their vehicles, and they can do, within their budget, and West Polk's budget is
118, I think.
118,000, that services 3 districts. And East Polk, or Copper Basin Fire's budget is 97,000. So it was only fair, because if I took from the county general, well, I can't take it. I'd have to come before the commissioner, I'd have to pull it from my budget. So,
but the money you transferred was
in
out of the maintenance line of the,
338 maintenance and repair service.
and it went into maintenance equipment, right? It went into oil and filters, it's actual maintenance. So it stayed within the
That line had
directive of the line.
That line had $20,000 at the first of the year. And prior to me taking that line had $6,823. Now that line has $3,823. And that was for oil and filters, only for the county vehicles that are under Copper Basin Fire Rescue.
So who else, here's what I got confused now. Who else pulls from this budget? Like, your fuel line. Who else uses the fuel?
Well, what happens is, the road department, and I believe I'm correct on this, road department sends fuel usage to Catrice, Catrice then pays the road department. It never comes to the fire department. So we don't see, and through the year when that hits, because it's not every day, obviously. So there's transactions that go on between the budget office and the road department that we don't see. We never put in purchase orders or anything regarding fuel because that's one of those gray line items. We don't know how much fuel cost is. We're not part of that discussion. We fill up at the county pump right here on Highway 68, and then the road department deals with Catrice. So we don't have any insight into what goes on with that.
Well,
So what actually happens is in my office, they request a PO. So at some point in time of the year, whether it was July 1st, July 4th, July 8th, they requested an amount of, hold on, let me go guess. So they were appropriated $8,697 at the first of the budget year. There is an open PO in the amount of $6,498. So that open PO, but if you come over, year-to-date, $1,471.12 has been used for that.
That makes sense.
So
That makes sense.
we don't reach in and do, a PO has to be sent to us. So in a case like this, what happens is that PO is opened at the first of the year.
It's open PO standing.
It's standing. That way they don't have to come every month and ask for 1,000 or 1,500. Now, that's up to that department to so choose how to do with their PO when it comes through the office. So they have chosen to put that amount into that PO. So what we see is we see that as being tied up. What you all as a commission see when you ask for that report is that it says that they only have $727 because somebody in that department chose to take a PO amount out, wasn't me.
And the
so-
difference.
Correct, and
The
they,
big thing is a $6,000 PO, open PO, if there's only 1,400 is spent out of it.
correct, that is
Well, the
correct.
6,000 will still reflect on her documents as 6,000 spent, even though it's dedicated but not expended.
So whenever we see this, we see a 74.5% spent budget. But the only thing that we could say that there is, I've been sitting here scribbling numbers between that and between my father, so if anybody wants to look at my phone, I do apologize for stepping out, but there is right at 72.25, if I've got all my scribbles right, from where this encumbrance comes back and forth. That money is there, but it is a PO that is open towards the road department. So if they want to adjust that, then they have to cancel that PO, and they have to justify that through our office, what that money is now going to be used for. So the fuel PO is an open PO, but they have said that they're going to use, let me find it again, $6,498.88 this year on fuel. And currently, they are at $1,471 since July, August, September, October, November, so a 4-month period. And it appears that they're averaging $464.14 month-to-date expenditure.
Sounds like, from my math, just doing it in my head, we're basically on track, percentage-wise. Number of days in the year versus the amount of fuel that we're spending, we're about where we need to be.
But whenever, like, and I can see where, because I had to get extra clarification from Catrice, because whenever you look at that, but so it reflects that 74% of the budget is expended out. But what you gotta really remember is there is the 7,000, but that still leaves that budget expended out at about, I'm just doing rough math, don't hold me to it, 65, 68%. I don't know of any other department in the county that is at over 50%, 60% at 4 months into the budget year. So I see where that could be a question. Because whenever you see those numbers, that's what we as a body see. But it's still a 60+%, yes, it is out in 4 months. So year to date, just so, I know I see Glenn writing, so to be clear, it was a $97,337 budget. Year-to-date expenditures is $43,218, and there is an outstanding encumbrance of $29,224, and an encumbered balance of $24,823.97. And if you want those numbers, Glenn, I know it's rough writing down.
So what
Can't
kind of-
use anybody else. I don't care one bit to sit there.
What was that total be?
Total budget, $97,337.
And I will offer to the commission, especially the subcommittee, we've got a woman that does an incredible job tracking to the penny everything, and she works directly with Catrice for all money expenditures. And we'd be happy if anytime y'all would like to come in, well, 2 things. Number 1, come into this committee and show you our books that exactly down to the penny of every expenditure. And B, once again, invite everybody, we do budget report outs every month at the volunteer meeting. And then number 3, anybody that'd like can work with Eve Monday through Friday at your convenience. She'll sit down and go over the budgets with you ad nauseum, to the literal penny, because her and Catrice and the ladies over there, they don't miss a beat. And so that's what I said, like, when we get a bill that we're being charged volunteer electric in Copper Basin, it immediately threw a flag, a phone call was made, and they worked it out. It was just a clerical, it was a mistype on a number. And and the way we do it is we have a treasurer that keeps up with all the books. We have a totally separate finance officer that overlooks the shoulder of the treasurer. Then neither of them are allowed to spend money. Any expenditures have to come through me, which is the 3rd level, and then I have to report to the board on anything that gets spent. And if it's over $1,000, I have to have board approval. So we've got about 5 layers of financial responsibility to make sure that we're not doing anything inappropriate or we're not getting outside our numbers. So, I believe anytime anybody wants, they can come and take a look at the books. We'll be happy to show it to them.
Any committee members have anything else?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I'm told that we have money put aside for another truck. What's the plausible ability of getting that other truck? I'm told there's been communications to get another truck. I know, I've heard all kinds of different stories.
We're looking for trucks, and yes, my understanding is there's money from the sale of the
$31,000 from
county.
approximately 31-ish.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Somewhere in there. And I've actually contacted, I've not got back in touch with Chris Bates, all of us from the west side, we know Chris very well, Chris, fire chief at Cleveland. That's who actually contacted me about the truck that we have now. And whenever we were there, Bush, you were there, I won't think he said it would be around the 1st of this year that they were going to be getting 2 trucks. But then you run into, just like what Marty said earlier, I don't know how their backlog for their new trucks are. But I do know that as compared to the past, the truck that we got from Cleveland and the trucks we've got from Bradley have been in tip-top shape. And like whenever that truck came across, I can say it now, if this gets back to this higher as it be, but anyway, it came with new tires, new batteries, oil change, filter change, pump just certified. There was more extras on that truck and that was given to us on that
You
truck.
told us in that 15, 16 pound, I don't know the hoses, right?
Correct.
And it's the nicest truck we have.
It is, it's got some hiccups, and that's the specific one that we're having the brake issues with. So I'm just, because we're down technically 2 trucks, and then we have these
And
other
he told
problems.
us that backlog on that truck was about 2 years.
Correct. He said that, they fool their fire department budget more than the county budget is.
Oh.
It's just be honest. And so whenever they get done, but the thing was as well as he said, because I even tried to beat him another $5,000, those two, I got told, we'll keep it water flowers with you before it goes any cheaper. That was the bottom line.
What's the bottom line on it?
That was the truck that we just got, the 20,000.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Okay,
Started off at 30,
okay.
and I kept twisting him.
Yeah, you did a good job on that, man.
I wanted 15. I kept telling him 15 just sounds better. He's like,
Just start at
no,
5.
20 sounds. But anyway, but so I'm hopeful to get that. And as well, I know Steve's not here as a fire chief. He's here as EMA, but Steve will also vouch. Bradley County's talked about because Bradley County and in the city of Cleveland. I've also talked to our state senator, Tom Hatcher. Tom comes from Blount County. So Blount County is a lot bigger county, and I've asked him, hey, it's not that Polk County wants something for free. We don't want anything for free. We don't want to be thought of like that. But some of these bigger fire departments, Maryville Fire Department, they're the same way. They have these trucks, and whenever you have $1 million of budgeting expense and you can afford that, so how hard would it be for some of these bigger departments to help? some of us out in the smaller rural areas. Another thing from the meeting, before we finish up, another thing from that meeting I was at the other day, and I called Monica probably, I think I actually texted Monica while I was sitting at the table with Brooksy. There is fire department grants that are fixing to start to come available. My question to them was are these grants gonna be so we can help make our bays bigger? Because that's one of the issues that we're running into. It's not necessarily, it's a whole lot larger truck, but it is a bigger frame truck and with what we have. So that's what I'm really looking at is, can that be done since this is county owned and since it's county equipment, what can be done? Now, if I get told no, what am I gonna do? Gonna curl and suck on my thumb? No, I'm gonna try to get something else. But my main push, because what I have heard in the past is somewhere to put these trucks, because like number 3, they fit in a few.
Yeah, we're limited on where that specific engine, so the one that's over there, is that one looking to look like the one we recently got from Cleveland, or do you need to know?
I'm not for sure. I'm not for sure what they'll turn out. I don't know if it was, I won't think one they'd even talked about was a ladder truck, which there's no need in a ladder. Let's just be honest. We would do a lot better with 3 of those trucks. And then the next thing you gotta look at is West Polk is just like East Polk. There's trucks and things that's needed. That last time whenever that was chosen, I had some on the west side. I was the one who made that decision. What was I supposed to do? Split it in half?
Yeah.
Who wants the front, who wants the back? So I hope that Copper Basin Fire will understand, because whoever, however, yes, but there was also things that were sold off, but this commission has always worked, just like whenever that fire truck come up. We hadn't sold things to have extra money, but everybody agreed that was a buy in that truck, and we need that truck. And at that time, East Polk needed that truck more so than West. So.
Well, I can tell you that coming from down in Fort Myers area, I know a lot of the old chiefs and stuff down there, and I call them regularly and ask them, hey, you guys got anything you're getting rid of? Because their trucks, like you said, they're $100,000 trucks, and they could care less. When they decide they want a new truck, they go buy a new truck, and they sell it off dirt cheap. So I'm constantly on the lookout. That's how we got the stuff for the brush truck. It was given to me because I told them we needed it. Oh, no problem, here you go. Great, that saved us a bunch of money. And there may be another truck coming up. I don't know. I'm gonna make a few phone calls this week and see what I can find out.
And it's a lot easier. I don't know about crossing states. Some of the older commissioners may, but whenever it's in the state of Tennessee, we can do things in a different way that does not have to meet, because I'm limited to $5,000. That's all I can spend. So anything over that, but the beauty, like with working with Chris and that truck is did they want to sell it? Absolutely. But they also wanted that truck because it helps Polk County, it helps them. And so they were able to hold up on that versus a gov deals by, you got to get it right then. Well, it's a $5,000 limit. And I know I get different ones. I mean, I'm not picking on any one. Steve in his day, he would send me stuff. Marty sends me stuff. If it starts out here, it's where it stops. 5,000 is my limit, and that's all that that we can do. Anything outside of that, it has to go to bid, or in the case where it's another department within the state of Tennessee, we can work something out, and that's how we were able to get that truck.
Well, we've done that no bid requirement with West Polk over some trucks that we bought privately, where we weren't required to bid it because it was county to county within the state.
And another thing that West Polk's been able to do, they've been able to take from their sum that they have and be able to purchase, well then, it would be theirs, but then be able to come back before the commission and say, hey, can we work something out and get that back? The commission.
Well, 100% of the trucks that were purchased privately by the fire department were turned over to the county with no strings attached.
So
and from 17 years back, there was about 600,000 or so above and beyond what the county gave us spent for fire apparatus and everything under the sun.
So what about the trucks that we need to depart with?
Do what now?
Engine 5, the one that's got the fuel issue. It's gonna be a lot more money to spend fixing that, rather than the full fuel system.
Which one's engine 5?
One over in Tines.
Yeah.
Duramax engine sitting at Station 5 in the Grassy Creek now. It's got a, it's been to Lee Smith several times. It's had transmissions replaced. It's only like a 2007 engine. It's one of the newer.
Just like the Stansbury truck, I got a guy.
Yeah, no, it's not like the Stansbury truck. The problem is it's a Duramax engine, and that particular year they had a real depth issue on how it was handling regen. And this particular truck kicks into regen and goes 8 miles an hour. It's been to Lee Smith and Associates twice. They've not been able to fix it. The problem is every time you send it there, it's expensive. If you've got a guy that can, two problems, it's that and it's got
a shutter in the beginning, and then by the time I took it into Ducktown and brought it back to the station, it had an injector kicking. I'm assuming we pulled the fuel bowl on it and saw the algae buildup in it, so it was restricting.
Yeah, this
I don't know what kind of damage it's done internally with the injectors over a duration of time.
You said it's 05 or 03?
In the 2000s.
03, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, this is one, it's just the maintenance bill has gotten bigger and bigger, but it's to the point now we've really got to ask, should we continue to put money, good money after bad for a truck that's, at least up to this point, has been a lemon for the last 15 to 17 years. And so it's one that we've really got to talk about and look at the numbers on.
And that's like some of the trucks, when you said the other day, the transmission issue, being sitting there that thing, found a whole field full of transmissions.
Yeah, that old Ford, it's got a transmission issue, but she starts on a dime. She runs good.
You know, and so why would we not look to see, because if I can get a transmission for $2,500, $3,000.
Exactly right.
That's what you do to fix it. You know, and as a prime example, Marty said this to me 2 years ago when he pulled up. And I think Keith and some of us here, he looked at me and said, "Well, it's not gonna do me any good to approach you about new trucks, is it?" I said, "No, I drive a 92 Toyota." But I do see, but it's, you know, when you don't know, and I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but like a second ago, I didn't know until Ben texted me. Well, I can show you my phone. I was on the phone with Chad, and I even told him, I said, "Chad, how ironic is this?" Because Keith had said that he tried to get a hold of whenever I talked to Keith, and he said, "Robbie, I'd have a hard time getting in contact with them." But they're more than willing to help them to look at, to see. And then Lucas was the one that fixed the Stansbury truck as the injector issue. And I even talked to Lucas about doing what Ben's doing, because Lucas was the one that used to do it.
Yep.
And so whenever I said, "Lucas, give me a price," and whenever I
2
told
3 years
him,
you did ours for about, I think that we had a fixed amount with him for $450, $425. In other words, how many trucks we had, it cost the same for every truck.
correct,
So it started cheap.
You know, one thing that if I could, sir, a couple of things. Number one, a big difference between Copper Basin is most of us at Copper Basin aren't from around here. We're from all over. We don't have the relationships. We don't know the people. We try, we ask questions, but I can promise you, you guys will always have better relationships than we do, just because most of us aren't from here. And we respect that. You know who to call, you know who to pick up the phone and get the right answers for. Second thing I'd like to say is, look, folks, I've been standing in front of elected officials now since 2008. It's your job to always watch the dollars. I get that. That is your job, and you're doing the best job you can do, and I appreciate it. My job is to tell you to come forward and say, "I need this on the fire department," or "I need that." And sometimes it's going to become some discussions, and I get that. That's just part of what we do here. I can say that every one of you have been great to work with. You're trying to make things happen. I know Commissioner Hatcher or Executive Hatcher has stepped right up every time we've asked and been able to come up with solutions, and I appreciate that. I know the people on this fire department, the citizens in this community, have stepped up and done everything we've asked them to do. I feel like, yes, we've gone through a little bit of a rough patch here in the last month or two, but we're 3.5 years into this relationship, and having a rough patch every now and then is just part of what happens. But I'm going to recommit to all of you. All we're looking for is we want safe trucks that we can drive to the scenes and do these calls. That's all we're asking for. We want them to work, we want them to be safe. As the fire chief, I want to make sure that all these people on the left and right of me make it home at night and nobody ever gets hurt with a bad truck. And I don't think that's too much to ask. Now, how, everything else, folks, I don't have a whole lot of pride left in me. I don't get my feelings hurt, and it's not about pride. If you've got a better way to do something than we've got, then by all means, let us know and we'll do it. We'll support it, okay? But at the end of the day, it's all about communication. There's one thing I cannot help you with, and that's the rumor mill in this county. You know, Commissioner, I never heard the rumor that you had made some sort of negative comments. I took it exactly the way you said it. You got a company telling you a problem, and then the same company's giving you an expensive solution. That's what I heard. But it amazed me 2 days, 3 days after our last meeting, the rumor mill that's out there. Folks, any of you can call me direct at any time. I cannot overcome the rumor mill, but you know, it's the same thing. I've been fighting rumors now for 3.5 years, and I keep fighting the same battles over and over. Look, this helicopter issue. Anytime y'all want to sit down and come to a final conclusion, I would love to put that hunting dog to rest. I'm so tired of hearing about helicopters. But it's been going on for 3 years, and I get it. And so, you know, if there's issues that we need to work through, we're happy to work through them. We're happy to come in here at night and deal with these issues. And I just wanted to say thank you for inviting us in here tonight and letting us work these issues out. I think we're all on the same page, and we all want the same thing. Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Come on, before you leave, stay on.
Yes.
All right.